So I thought I'd make a short video on my opinions of engraving and if it's worth it to get into it or not. So I guess that all depends on how much you're willing to spend. You can get into it for as cheap as a few $100s if you're willing to learn how to use a hammer and chisel. So this is an old hammer. I got it for a very cheap price. I actually bought a whole lot of engraving stuff on eBay for less than $200. And if you've ever tried to look at how expensive engraving can get, $200 is not bad. So it came with a head. It came with all these bits. And they are all very nice bits. They are engrave and just good brands. But they're all old. It's older steel, and it's not the newer steel. And the newer steel is better. Our technology around making metal and our understanding of metal and the properties are much better than they were 50 years ago. So some of the bits don't hold up as well as the newer bits would. Some of the chisels or the gravers. So there are all different kinds of gravers. And if you were to buy these online, they can be anywhere from $8 to $20. And you need quite a few of them. You also need a way to sharpen them. You can sharpen them with stones. There's a few different ways that you can sharpen them, but they all take a long time. So if you really want to get proficient and get a lot of practice in, you end up having to buy something more like this. And this is a hone. It's a GRS power hone. And they are not cheap. This one is used. All of my equipment for engraving is used. This really saves you on time and makes you much more precise when shaping the tip. And that can be its own little learning. So if you really like to learn and you really like to nerd out over stuff, then engraving could be a great thing. And I love it. I do love it. It's a lot of fun, but you do have to understand there's a lot that goes into it. So if you've ever priced engraving, it can be pretty expensive. For a firearm to be engraved or a piece of jewelry to be engraved, hand engraved, it can be a little expensive, and there are many reasons for that. To get good at engraving, it's not something you're going to pick up and be awesome at from the get-go. You have to put a lot of time into learning and practicing. And if you get into drawing and learning how different scrolls are designed, different styles of scrolls, you can go as deep as you want into this. Originally, I did not intend on getting into engraving like this. I took a engraving class, and at first we used hammer and chisel, and I took the class because, and I'll show you why, and it's kind of a funny story. But I like old tools. I really like old tools. And this old tool ended up costing me thousands and thousands of dollars. So this is a Swiss made, it is a sharpening tool. So your engraver goes in it, and it sits at a very specific angle, and then you go back and forth on a piece of sandpaper or a piece of, or a stone, preferably some type of diamond stone. You can sharpen your engraver with this little fella. I was not engraving at the time. I just saw this tool and I really liked it. I liked the way it looked. I just thought it was a really neat tool. So I thought it would be really neat to stick with my other useless, really neat tools. And I found one in it was an eBay auction, and the starting bid was $100 for this, the hammerhead, and all of these graver bits. So altogether, if you were to buy them separately, would be very, very expensive. So I thought, well, $100, I'll do it. So I ended up with all this cool stuff, and I didn't know how to use it. So an engraving class came up, and I had just finished up with a gunsmithing program. Just graduated, and I was finished, but I didn't want to leave the school. I really loved the school. So I signed up for the engraving class. And I thought, yeah, this is awesome. And I took all the tools, and I kind of quickly learned that I needed different tools. I needed a little bit better tools. So one thing led to another, and I bought some other tools, and I tried it for a little bit, and hammer and chisel just was not fun for me. I wasn't horrible, but I didn't enjoy it. I kind of dreaded it. It wasn't peaceful. It didn't bring me a sense of joy while I was doing it. And that's kind of why I do the things that I do, is because I'll get lost in it and I'll get hyper focused, and it brings me a sense of joy. So we got on pneumatic engraving. And when we pulled out the pneumatic engravers, I played with it a little bit, and I fell in love instantly. I don't think I would have fallen in love if I wouldn't have tried the hammer and chisel first. So I do think it's important to give that a try. And then once you get onto pneumatic engraving, it is a whole nother world. It's still very difficult. But, for starters, and I have only doing this for, I think it's been about 9 months. And I do many other things. I teach part-time. I make jewelry full-time now. And I try to incorporate as much engraving as I can into it. So I don't get to practice engraving for hours and hours every day, but I get about a good 30 minutes to an hour in every day, maybe more depending on the job. Sometimes I'll spend 8 hours engraving in a day, but it all really depends. That's not every day for sure. But I will go over some of the tools, and if you want to start engraving, I would recommend finding a class. Finding a good class with a good teacher, and use their tools for a few semesters to make sure it's something that you really want to do. Because this is not a skill that you want to pay for if you are not in love with it, right? Just because it is not for everybody. It is not a cheap hobby. So I am nowhere near as good as I want to be, and I'm not great at all. But I am very happy with where I'm at after 9 months. So if you practice and you don't give up, you can be at a really good spot within a year. You can be very happy with where you're at in a year. I actually spent about 2 months really hitting it hard, and I mean really engraving a lot. And I grew so much in those 2 months. It's pretty incredible to me. For me as a personal growth thing, it really surprised me at how good you could be after a few months of really hitting this hard. But I'll kind of go over the tools first. So the first thing you'll have to have is a pneumatic engraver. So this machine is a GRS, Engraver Max G8. This is a used machine, and it is their old model. The old model is still very expensive. A lot of people prefer the old model over the new model, and some like the new model. So the new model has a throttle in the handpiece. So when you push, or you can kind of pull back on the handpiece, and it'll activate the engraver. This model has a foot pedal, so to activate the engraver, you push on the foot pedal, and it is controlled. It's a throttle. You can control the speed up here. So all the controls are up here. I'm not going to go over how it works, but it is a really good machine. If you can find an old model, or if you can find a new one, you know, a lot of people upgrade, and when they upgrade, they'll sell their old one. I really love this machine. It's really good. You don't have to go with this one. This one is pretty quiet, and I do like it. I like it a whole lot. I like the control, the adjustability of this one. The G8, I think is really, really good. There is a cheaper model, and I can't remember the name of it, but it doesn't have, it only has one outlet, and it has a little less adjustability. And there's even older ones that work just fine. You're also going to need hand pieces. These hand pieces are not cheap either. These hand pieces can be about $500 a piece. And there are 3 different styles for this machine. And I only have this one in here right now, but you have the 901. This is the Monarch. This is the smallest. They have a 901, and then they have a Magnum. And the Magnum is for cutting deeper and harder. Deeper is for, it hits harder, right? The 901 is a good medium between a hard-hitting handpiece and a light hitting handpiece. You can really control it pretty well. A 901 is usually what you're going to want to start with. And then mine that was used came with a Monarch. A Monarch is more for jewelry. It's a very light cutting handpiece, and it doesn't have as much power as the other two. This is a very specific handpiece, and I would not suggest going with it starting off unless you know exactly what you're going to do, and this is what you need. Then you have a rotary tool, and the rotary tool is about the same, $500-600, and it is very nice. It spins about as fast as a dental tool. It spins very fast, and it allows you to make really good cuts without grabbing the metal and zipping off like a Fordham would, or like a some other type of rotary tool. So these are really, really good for relieving backgrounds and stuff like that. I really love this tool. This is definitely worth having. It's not something you need to start with by any stretch of the imagination, but it is worth having. They also make a neat hand piece for stippling. It looks kind of like this. You can hold it more like that. These you can stipple with, but it does get kind of uncomfortable to hold. So stippling can take a long time, and that, you know, or shading, or I don't know what you would call it. You know, I am a beginner engraver still, so this is just my opinion, so I do apologize if I get some words wrong. These are ball vices. This is a GRS ball vice back here, and this is a Steinman & Steinman 1888 ball vice. So this is a very old ball vice, and I bought it for about $250. The one in the back's about $500-600, on up to about $800. The one in the back's very expensive. You can get the smaller one in the back. You can get the smaller version. But I wanted a big version, and I wanted this one. This is a jeweler's vice, so it's a whole lot smaller, and it doesn't lock in place. So if you do buy one for hammer and chisel, make sure it locks in place. This one does free spins, so it's much better for smaller things. It also doesn't have as wide of a vise on the top. The vise is a lot smaller and doesn't have as big as a throw as the one in the back. So the power hone is another thing you really need. You don't have to have it. Like I said, you can use a device like this little guy that is $250 if you can find one, but that's an old tool. They have newer tools. They have them made out of plastic, but I don't buy plastic stuff. This thing is pretty cool. The ones that they have that's made out of plastic, they're set at a certain angle, and you put your engraver bit in there, and then you can go back and forth at whatever angle, and it'll put that angle on the face, the nose, and the heels of your engraver. And it just takes a long time. This thing does not take near as long. This is an awesome tool. It cuts on, it goes in reverse and forward. And then you have this. This is an apex fixture. It adjusts this in this direction. It adjusts up and down in this direction. So I'll show you. So this piece right here adjusts side to side so you can get your heels. This side goes up and down when you're doing your face, so you can set the angle. So while you're grinding, you set the angle here, and then you set the angle here. This is a very expensive machine as well. I can't remember what I bought all of it for. It seems like I got it all, or it seems like I got the GRS, the G8, and the Hone, and one handpiece, and one of these discs on top. And I think I got it all for, I think, $2,500, maybe $2,800. But these discs can be anywhere from $200 to $500 a piece, and you need about 5 of them. They go up. This is a 600 grit. They have a 220, which is called a gator, and it's a very coarse one, and it's for shaping. It's for removing a lot of metal fairly quick. And then when you're doing the heels and you're doing the rest of your polishing the face and all that, you will need much higher. So altogether, that was a very good deal. Most of the time, the engravers themselves are very expensive, and I'm not going to talk about the price, but I will post a little spreadsheet or a little breakdown below the video that kind of goes through the tools and their prices, because that is kind of what makes this a fairly large investment. So that's why I say you really don't want to go out and buy all this stuff and then decide that you don't have time or you don't want to do it. So I would recommend finding a good class, like I said, and just take it for a few semesters. Take it for a few months, see if you like it. If you do fall in love, which you might, I love it. I really enjoy it. You will also need some type of magnification. I have a couple optivisors, but I use a number 7 and a number 5. My teacher and friend, her name is Sam Cherry, and she is a wonderful engraver, and she is a wonderful teacher. So she's kind of been my mentor, and she's led me in the direction that I needed to go. So I would say the most important thing is, if you do get into it, try finding yourself somebody who really is passionate about the art and can lead you in the right direction. I made this ring, and then I engraved it using this engraver, and then I thought, well, man, why don't I put some diamonds in it? So I set a couple diamonds in it. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of different uses for it. My thoughts, I do enjoy it. You can get very good at it, and you can get very proficient at it, but it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication. It's not something you're just going to pick up and becoming master overnight. It takes hundreds or thousands of hours. And let me say, not hundreds. It takes thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of hours to become amazing at it. But to become good enough to make you happy and to do some little jobs for your friends, you know, you're talking about a few hundred hours of practice, and you can definitely do it for sure. But anyways, that's all I'm going to go over tonight. If you have any questions, definitely reach out. I like talking about my tools. I like talking about my hobbies and my passions. So I know I have a rough voice. I might not be super photogenic, and I know my voice is not the easiest to listen to. So I am using a microphone. Hopefully that helps. Maybe you can hear in a much clearer way how horrible my voice is. So anyways, you all have a good night, and I will talk to you next time.